it was just as if I thought, like, this is a house that can move and walk around, and this is also a house on legs, so like, tomato. Hi everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Books with Leo, where I talk about books. And today I am doing a if you liked this book, then you will probably also like this book video. I've done one of these videos a really long time ago. I think back when I first started my channel. I will link it somewhere if you're still interested to watch it. And I'm doing another one today. I've selected a few books that I really enjoyed that are also really popular, that were some of my favourites. Some of them were really not. The Cruel Prince. But I still have a recommendation for people who liked that book. So before we get into the rest of the video, a quick word from this week's sponsor, which is Book of the Month. Book of the Month is a super popular and fast-growing online book service for readers, and it is their mission to promote new and emerging authors and to help you discover the books that you love. The idea is that their team vets all of the books out there and then makes a curated selection of new and early release titles. This way you can spend more time reading and less time researching. I'm super excited to be working with Book of the Month again, as they always have great books to choose from and they are risk-free. You can skip any month, any time, and not be charged. So if you don't like any of the books in the selection that month, you're still safe. A little side note though is that unfortunately Book of the Month does not ship outside of the US. I still decided to partner up with them as I have quite a lot of audience in the US that might still be interested in this service. Plus, Book of the Month has the best price for new release hardcover fiction, and this time there's a special deal to get your first book for only $5 with the code JOLLY. So let's take a look at this month's books. So the first book you can choose from is A Flicker in the Dark by Stacey Willingham. This is a lyrical thriller in which we follow Chloe Davis, whose dad was convicted of serial killings and disappearings, and now 20 years later, when Chloe's all grown up, similar killings start happening and she's sucked back into the mystery again, and she will try to unmask who's doing these killings this time around. The next pick is The Holiday Swap by Maggie Knox. This is a feel-good, holiday-themed romantic comedy about identical twins who switch lives in the days leading up to Christmas. I think this would be my personal pick this month. I've always loved a good holiday book, and especially a cheesy rom-com. Right up my alley, so definitely in the mood for this read. Then we have Olga Dies Dreaming by Xochitl Gonzalez. In this book, we follow Olga, who's a driven wedding planner grappling with her social ambitions, absent mother, and Puerto Rican roots, all in the wake of Hurricane Maria. This story has been named a feminist anthem by several reviewers, so that definitely makes me very interested in it as well. Another option that piqued my interest for this month is A History of Wild Places by She Earnshaw. This is a haunting, bewitching story about fairy tales, our fear of the dark, in which character Travis Wren is looking into the disappearance of Maggie St. James, a famous author who wrote some really macabre tales. The next pick is Somebody's Daughter by Ashley C. Ford. This is a powerful memoir containing the story of a childhood defined by the ever-looming absence of her incarcerated father and the path we must take to both honour and overcome our origins. Some books that you could also pick when you are signing up for Book of the Month are the add-ons, and this month the highlighted add-on is the Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. This is a deeply moving and mind-expanding collection of personal essays, and this is the first ever work of non-fiction that John Green has written. First-time members can sign up with any book they like, including the add-ons. So don't forget to head on over to bookofthemonth.com and use the code JOLLY to get your first book for only $5. Thank you so much for sponsoring this video and for watching my sponsorship and helping me to keep creating content. And let's now get back to the rest of the video. So let's just get right into it. The first book is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Back when I read The Cruel Prince, I really enjoyed it, but now looking back on it, I don't understand why this is as popular as it is and why people love it as much as they do, because to me, it's not that special. Of course, everybody has different tastes, so please don't hate me, please. I think it makes us great as readers that we all like and enjoy different things in literature. It's been 4 years or something, so sorry if I explain it very badly. This is about Jude, whose parents have been killed by fairies, and she and her sisters have been abducted into the land of fairies. And that's where they live with the fae, even though they're not fae. One of her sisters is actually half fae, I think. Anyway, they go to balls. They have this sort of thing with this prince, like this tension Jude has. There's political intrigue, there's tension between the two. It's a really enjoyable fantasy book that I also liked, but it wasn't like my favourite thing ever. It has some dark vibes as well, which I did really enjoy. It's like a bit more on the darker side of the fantasy spectrum. So my recommendation for if The Cruel Prince is one of your favourite books is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater, which is the first book in the Regency fairy tale series. This book is so much fun. I cannot believe I didn't discover it earlier. It's basically a series about a girl whose soul is stolen by the Fae when she's a child, and this fairy takes her soul but only takes half of it because he's stopped by her niece, who puts a pair of sewing scissors into his heart. Anyway, these books are basically what I would describe as a mix-up between Bridgerton, the TV show. I haven't read the book, so I can't make any judgments on that. So a mix between Bridgerton and Sarah J. Maas books with fae and fairies. Really good, really enjoyable. It has a bit more of the darker vibe that The Cruel Prince has as well, but it has a lot of Regency vibes and balls and ladies being presented to the court, you know, and trying to find a husband and dancing around in beautiful dresses, stuff like that. But then it also has that darker twist and this magician sorcerer that's kind of twisted and not really right in the head, and there's this mystery that they're trying to solve. And it also has great tension between the main character with half a soul and the twisted magician, which I would really compare to the tension between Jude and Carden, who's the Cruel Prince, in this story as well. So I think if you enjoyed this one, you should definitely check out Half a Soul. And it's part of a series, so I cannot wait to pick up the next books. Okay, my next recommendation is about These Witches Don't Burn by Isabel Sterling, which is a queer book about a girl in a coven who's a witch, and she's an elemental witch, and her ex-girlfriend is also in the coven. They have to solve this mystery together of a dark blood magic that's happening in their town. It's set in Salem, so it's definitely very spooky witchy. If you liked this book, then I would definitely recommend Witches of New Orleans by Bridget Dellery, which is a short story collection full of romance stories that are also very witchy and set with witches in covens, and it also has a queer story in the collection. It's quite short, so it's a quick read, has a lot of good smut. It was one of my favourite smutty reads of this year. This one does not have smut because it's YA, but I just think like the witchy vibe and also the queer and LGBTQ elements in this book sort of correlate to this one nicely, although this one is a much lighter, like, quick read than this one is. But still, if you like this one, I would highly recommend Witches of New Orleans, and if you liked Witches of New Orleans, I would recommend These Witches Don't Burn. Then next up, if you liked Radio Silence by Ellis Oseman, I would like to recommend Am I Normal Yet by Holly Bourne. So both of these books are big on mental health themes and themes of pressures in society. This one is about Frances, who's a straight A student and who's really struggling with what she wants to do after high school and dealing with the pressures of her parents and school and university. And this one is about Evie, who is dealing with a very heavy case of OCD and who's trying to get back into school and back into learning, and who's also really trying to be a normal teen. Both of these books have a lot of humour but still deal with really serious topics that are very important to be discussed. And I also think both of these books just sort of have a very similar vibe, although I would definitely say that Am I Normal Yet has more of like a sort of humoristic, like funky, quirky vibe than this one does. This one's a bit more serious, but still, if you enjoyed this one, I think you would really like Am I Normal Yet? The next one, I thought it was so funny when I came up with this comparison. I think if you liked Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones, you would also really like The House with the Chicken Legs by Sophie Anderson, because like it was just as if I thought like, this is a house that can move and walk around, and this is also a house on legs, so like, tomato. But that's not what I thought. I mean, that's kind of what I thought, but also not. Both of these books have this sort of magical, whimsical, middle grade vibe, and I just think that's mainly why I would recommend them to you. If you like this one, I would recommend this one, and if you like this one, I would recommend this one, obviously. But also because both of the houses move, so I thought that was a fun element. That doesn't happen in a lot of books, but it does happen in both of these books. So this is the book that the Studio Ghibli adaptation of Howl's Moving Castle is based on. I kind of like the movie more. Oops. Readers, don't come for me. I'm so sorry. But I also really like the book, so I am recommending it to you. It's about Sophie Hatter, who's been cursed, and she goes to Howl, which is this creepy wizard in a magical castle that moves around to help her out. And this is about Marinka, whose grandmother is Baba Yaga and helps the spirits move on to the next world. And she needs to be the next Baba Yaga when she grows up, but she doesn't want to be. And they live in this house with chicken legs. Both of these books have kind of a twisted vibe here and there. Like, they're a bit like trippy, I would say. Both of them have some elements that you're like, what's actually going on? But it does kind of work within the story. Both of them are middle grades. And like I said before, both of them are just really magical and whimsical. This one does tackle a bit more difficult subjects such as grief and stuff like that. This one also has some themes of war in there, so that's quite heavy. But both of them are still at the same time very well balanced out, readable and lighthearted and funny in their own ways. So yeah, that's my next recommendation. And then last but not least, if you're just like me, absolutely obsessed with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I would highly recommend City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. I do not know why I haven't seen people make this comparison more, but I just think if you like this book, you'll also love this one. First and foremost, both of them are about women, incredibly powerful, strong-willed women that don't always do the right thing, but are very intriguing characters, looking back upon their life and telling their life story. That's an element in both of these books. So in this one, we have famous actress Evelyn Hugo, who I think you could best compare to, like, Marilyn Monroe, but then fictional. And in this one, we have Vivian, who's a seamstress in the 1900 somethings in New York, and who joins this theatre full of misfits. And both of them are looking back upon their life and telling the story to someone else. So Evelyn Hugo is telling it to a journalist, and Vivian is telling it to somebody else in a letter, and it's not revealed who that is until the end of the book. Both of them have some twists and turns, some reveals here and there, and both of them tackle really important and beautiful subjects of friendship and a life well lived. Both of them show this life story in such a beautiful way. Both of them are also historical. It goes from the 1950s till the 1980s, and I think this one is set just before World War One. If I remember correctly, I might be wrong. I will look it up. Anyway, both of these are very similar in that way, and also in the vibes and just the reading of the life story. Both of them are also very funny, even though they do deal with difficult subjects. That's something that I like, when books still keep their humour. Anyway, those are all of my recommendations for if you like this book, then you also like that book. Definitely let me know in the comments down below if you have any recommendations for me, and let me know what you thought of this video. And yeah, I'll see all of you in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye!